Hi, I'm Liane Jackson, Senior Law Editor at Forbes, and today I am joined with former federal prosecutor and professor of white-collar criminal law at George Washington University Law School, Randall Eliason. And he is a frequent commenter on an analyst on what's going on with the many Trump cases, and in particular, of course, what's happening currently, the hush money trial in New York City. We also had, of course, yesterday Supreme Court oral arguments on the immunity issue in the DC case. But thank you so much for joining me, Professor Eliason. I appreciate it.
Sure, my pleasure.
Would you talk a little bit about today, David Pecker, former publisher of the National Enquirer, was on the stand again. He was being cross-examined by Trump's team. He was talking about more payments this time to Karen McDougal, who's also a former porn star, and how that played into this concept that the prosecution is trying to push, that there was a conspiracy with President Trump at the center of it. Can you talk a little bit about how the cross-examination went and where the defense is heading or trying to head off that theory?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to try to do with Pecker. They didn't get too far into the cross yet, but of course she's the prosecution's lead witness and really laying out the whole story of this pattern they had of the catch and kill, they call them, sort of trying to head off any negative stories about Trump during the campaign and make sure they never saw the light of day. I'm not sure they can really dispute a lot of that. So, I think what they will probably try to, I don't think they can dispute that it happened. What they'll try to suggest it was primarily Michael Cohen and Pecker and maybe others in the Trump organization, and that Trump himself was not terribly involved. He's got people to handle that stuff for him, right? So that'll be probably the pitch I don't think they're going to attack Pecker too hard. And try to call him a liar, but I think they'll just try to sort of minimize the effect by saying, well, maybe this happened, but it was political operatives working on the campaign. It was Cohen, and Trump himself wasn't really that focused on it, probably that kind of thing.
How do you Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. His prosecution's lead witness, it seems like he's coming across pretty well, telling a pretty compelling story. And that's what you want to lead off with. The first and last witnesses are like kind of folklore. They're the most important, right? That's what the jury's really going to remember. So not surprising that they let off with him. And I think he's told a pretty compelling story of this, really having the campaign, really having this major media company kind of working on its behalf, which is pretty extraordinary. It may not have been illegal itself, but it was pretty extraordinary to have the kind of working hand in hand with the campaign the way he apparently was.
And he talked about that a lot of the way they arranged the hush money payments, at least to Karen McDougal, were intended to avoid triggering campaign finance laws, which is part of the prosecution's case, at least I believe on the misdemeanor level, that's the first stage to establishing the conspiracy, which is what they're really going for. Is that correct?
Yeah, to make the charges are just falsifying business records, and that's normally a misdemeanor. So to make it a felony, they have to have an underlying crime that they're alleging that the false records were trying to conceal or further somehow. And the underlying crime that they're focused on is an election crime. So they're saying, that these catch and kill schemes were unlawful campaign contributions, basically, and that was a conspiracy to influence the election. And that's not what Trump is charged with, but the argument is that's what his intent was when the records were falsified, was to help cover up that underlying election fraud conspiracy.